All right, let's dive into Porto. We've got articles, notes, all sorts of stuff here. It looks like we're going way beyond the typical tourist stuff this time.
Yeah, it seems like even seasoned travelers are finding new reasons to go there and spend, real time in Porto.
Oh, yeah, they're realizing that it's not just a quick stop anymore. You really need more than a few days to even start to get a feel for it all.
Yeah, for a long time, people just thought about the Douro River and, all the port wine cellars.
Right?
But there's just so much more to the city than that.
Oh, especially when it comes to food. One that caught my eye was Gruta, a seafood restaurant run by, get this, an all-female chef team.
Wow.
They're getting incredible reviews. Their octopus carpaccio and sea rice sound amazing.
Yeah, it seems like there's this real emergence of female talent in the Porto culinary scene. It's not just Gruta either. We're seeing women leading the way in a lot of restaurants, really bringing a fresh perspective to Portuguese cuisine.
That's awesome. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you've got Euskalduna Studio, dimly lit shelves stacked with cookbooks. Sounds super intimate.
Yeah, almost secretive.
Yeah. And then the menu, inventive tasting menus, drawing inspiration from all over the globe.
Sounds like a real culinary adventure.
Yeah.
Euskalduna Studio is definitely tapping into this kind of growing cosmopolitan vibe in Porto. The city is so open to these global influences while still holding on to that, that unique Portuguese identity.
Definitely. Speaking of unique, Lyra, we got to talk about the drinks. Our research says one thing for sure. The Portuguese love to socialize over drinks.
They do.
We've got two spots here that both sound fantastic. First, you've got MUSA, a lively tap room right on the river.
Oh, wow.
Imagine watching the sunset over the Douro with a glass of their own brand beer.
You can practically feel the energy and buzz just reading about it.
Right. But then Tia Tia, this natural wine bar that's described as feeling like your friend's living room.
Oh, that's nice.
I love that cozy vibe.
It does sound very inviting. And it's not just about the atmosphere either. It's a great place to discover local wines. They've got Douro wines, pet nats, which are naturally sparkling, and even orange wines.
Okay, so those are white wines, but they're made with extended skin contact, right?
That's right.
All right. Definitely adding that to my list. Let's move on to markets, because Porto has got some real gems. Mercado do Bolham. This is a historic market. It's recently renovated, but it dates back to the 1850s.
Wow, that's amazing.
I know.
It's great that they've preserved that history, while still modernizing the space.
Totally.
You can still find local traders selling everything from fresh produce and meat to flowers.
And they say don't be afraid to chat with the stall owners.
Oh, absolutely.
They're a wealth of knowledge about all the local products and hidden gems.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Okay, and then there's Portobello Market. Kind of reminds me of London's Portobello Market. It's the place to be on Saturday afternoons, especially if you're looking for unique finds.
Sounds great. Now, did you ever think of Porto as a beach destination?
Honestly, not really.
I know, right?
But it is.
But it is.
Yeah.
So if you're relying on public transport, Homenedula Beach is easy to get to. And it's beautiful, clear water.
Yeah. And for those willing to drive a bit, Praia de Morro Norte is about 30 minutes from the city center. It's a local favorite. Plenty of space to relax.
Yeah, but one thing to keep in mind, that Atlantic water, it can be chilly.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Okay, let's talk about Porto's cafe culture. Apparently starting the day with a bica, that's espresso, and a pastel de nata, a custard tart, is a must.
Oh, yeah. Sounds like a great way to start the day.
I'm in. And Porto has some seriously iconic cafes, like Café e Brasileiro, which opened in 1903. It was a popular haunt for actors and writers. It's part of the Pestana Hotel now, but you can still feel that history in those ornate interiors.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah. And then there's Café Granny. This one's on Aliados Avenue and has been a favorite amongst musicians since it opened in 1933.
I did read that it's currently undergoing renovations. There's a new metro line being built.
Okay. But it should be open again soon.
And then, of course, we have to mention Café Majestic. The Art Nouveau interiors and facade are just stunning. No wonder it was a gathering spot for all those intellectuals and writers.
Seems like every cafe in Porto has a story to tell. It speaks to the city's rich cultural heritage. Speaking of stories, what about brunch?
Oh, Porto is offering something a little different. Instead of avocado toast, you can find dishes like creamy Turkish eggs and rabanadas, that's Portuguese French toast, and epoca Porto. That seems to be the place to get it.
Yeah, it gets a great mix of locals and tourists.
Oh, that's always a good sign.
Yeah.
And for digital nomads out there, A certain cafe in the Bonfim neighborhood is popular.
Oh, cool.
They also do regular events and parties, so definitely check their schedule.
Sounds good. Okay, are we ready to talk about the francesinha?
Oh, the legendary francesinha. I'm ready.
So imagine this. Layers of meat, sausage, ham, sometimes steak, all covered in melted cheese, a fried egg, and then drenched in this special tomato and beer sauce.
Oh my gosh, it sounds incredible.
It does, doesn't it? Everyone has their opinion on the best francesinha in town. Café Santiago is a classic choice. O Afonso was Anthony Bourdain's favorite.
Oh, wow.
But our sources also say you got to try Brassao's Cervecaria in Kufra.
Okay, noted. But before we completely lose ourselves in all the delicious food, we have to talk about one of the things that makes Porto so unique. The azulejos.
The tiles.
The tiles, they're everywhere, decorating buildings, churches, even train stations.
It's true. And the word azulejo, comes from the Arabic word for small polished stone.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and they were introduced to Portugal by the Moors. It's another layer of history to the city.
And they're not just decorative. They often depict scenes from Portuguese history, saints' lives, even daily life.
Some people even compare them to stained glass windows.
Oh, interesting. Our sources point to a few must-see spots for azulejo lovers.
Okay.
First, Salbendo Railway Station.
Mm-hmm.
Over 20,000 hand-painted tiles by Jorge Colaco depicting historical events and scenes of everyday life.
Wow. It's like walking into an art museum.
Yeah. And then there's the Church of Santo Ildefonso. Thousands of tiles by Jorge Colaco here as well. They say it's best to view it against a clear blue sky to really appreciate the colors. And then Capella das Almas, the exterior is completely covered in tiles depicting the lives of St. Francis of Assisi and St. Catherine of Alexandria.
Oh, beautiful.
It's amazing how the tiles transform everyday buildings into works of art.
Yeah, they really do.
And they mention a few other spots for azulejo appreciation. Porto Cathedral, the cloisters are adorned with tiles. And Igreja do Carmo, this one has blue and white tiles on its Baroque facade.
Stunning. It's clear that art is woven into the fabric of Porto. And speaking of art, we can't forget about the incredible museums and galleries.
Oh, right. The Soares dos Reis National Museum. This one is housed in Portugal's oldest palace. It's got an amazing collection of Portuguese art. One piece in particular caught my eye. It's called O Desterrado, which means The Exile, by Antonio Soares dos Reis.
Okay.
A sculpture carved from Carrara marble, and people compare him to Michelangelo. I know. And then, for contemporary art, the Serralves Museum.
Oh, that's a must-see.
I know. And it was designed by, get this, Pritzker Prize-winning architect Alvaro Siza Vieira, who's actually from Porto.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that.
And the museum itself is set in a beautiful park.
Beautiful.
And for anyone who likes to browse and maybe even buy some art, our sources recommend checking out Rua de Miguel Bombarda.
Oh, the art district.
That's the one. They mention two galleries in particular, Galeria Pazenca, which hosts contemporary art, and O Galleria for illustrations and prints. But let's not forget that Porto is also a city of churches, and our sources encourage us to go beyond just admiring the azulejo facades.
Yes, step inside.
San Francisco Church, for example, is no longer used for worship, but its gilded interiors are said to be the best example of Baroque decoration in Porto. And it also houses this stunning tree of Jesse, carved in gilded and painted wood, dates back to the early 18th century.
Oh, wow.
I know. And then there's Clerigos Church and Tower, designed by Italian architect Niccolò Nasoni in the 18th century. The bell tower is a landmark, you can't miss it, and the views from the top are supposed to be incredible, so, gotta climb that tower.
You gotta climb that tower.
Definitely add it to the list. Speaking of must-dos, we have to talk about visiting those port lodges.
Ah, yes, the port lodges.
Right, those historic buildings lining the Douro River, each one with their own unique history and character.
How do you even choose?
Right, you got to take your time and think about what you're interested in. Do you want to check out a well-known British brand like Sandeman or a Portuguese brand like Ferreira?
That's a tough choice.
It is. Some of them have cellar museums, while others focus on premium tastings. Where you can really learn about the different types of port.
It's a whole world unto itself.
It is. The one that really stood out to me was Taylor's.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, one of the oldest, founded in 1692, and it's still an independent, family-run business.
Wow, that's amazing.
Their tour sounds fantastic. You get to sample different types of port, like chip dry, late bottled vintage, even ready-to-drink port and tonic, all that for just €20.
That's a steal.
But beyond the port, Porto has shopping that goes way beyond souvenirs.
Yeah.
One that piqued my interest was Claus Porto, the Portuguese soap brand.
Oh, yeah, their flagship store on Rua das Flores is beautiful.
I know, and the Art Nouveau packaging is just stunning.
And the scents. Oh, my God.
They've got a new one in their Musco Real line for men, Alto Mar. It's inspired by the Atlantic coast.
Oh, how interesting.
Yeah, and it comes as soap on a rope and an eau de toilette. I love how they capture the essence of Portugal in those fragrances.
Oh, me too. And speaking of capturing the essence, there's Alati Labels of Tomorrow. It's like a sophisticated department store housed in a historic building.
Oh.
The owners, Edgar and Guillerma, they also have stores in Lisbon. They've got this incredible eye for curating beautiful pieces with a focus on Portuguese, Brazilian, and Spanish labels. And to top it off, there's an upstairs cafe with an outdoor terrace. Perfect spot to relax after some shopping.
Perfect. But let's not forget jewelry. Porto is known for its gold, right?
That's right. Traditional gold filigree from northern Portugal is really popular. You'll find tons of shops showcasing the craft. And of course, those iconic Viana heart pendants.
Oh, yeah.
They're originally from Viana do Castelo.
Which is nearby, right?
Yeah, just north of Porto.
Yeah. Beautiful souvenir to take home.
They are. But for anyone who wants something a little more contemporary, you should check out Crew Creative Hub.
Yeah.
It's this unique concept. It's a store, a coffee roastery, and a co-working space all in one.
Oh.
They feature something like 50 Portuguese brands, everything from handmade jewelry to shoes, designed and made in northern Portugal. And you know what? While you're in the area, you should just spend some time wandering down Rua de Miguel Bombarda.
The art district.
Yeah, galleries, antique shops, cafes. It's just got this really creative energy.
Love that. Okay, so we've shopped. Now it's time for something sweet. Our sources are pointing us towards Chocolateria Ecuador. They source their beans from Sao Tome and Principe.
Oh, nice.
I know. And they're known for their unique chocolate creations. Like, get this, chocolate sardines sprinkled with salt and algae.
What?
I know, right? Or bars infused with port wine, salted caramel, all sorts of unexpected flavors.
I love that.
Me too. And you'll find their shops all over the historic center, so it shouldn't be too hard to satisfy that chocolate craving. Speaking of satisfying cravings, we have to talk about Livraria Lello.
Oh, yes, the iconic bookstore.
The one, I've seen pictures, it's just stunning.
It's so popular now you need to buy a ticket to enter. But the good news is it's refundable if you buy a book.
Okay.
But who could go in there and not buy a book?
Right. It's true. It's true. I mean, that staircase alone, the one that supposedly inspired the Hogwarts staircase in Harry Potter.
It's magical. Which makes sense, since J.K. Rowling lived in Porto while she was writing the first Harry Potter book.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay. Well, speaking of magical landscapes, what about the Douro Valley?
Oh, yes, the Douro Valley.
Just picture those rolling vineyards cascading down to the Douro River.
Breathtaking scenery. Our sources suggest a few ways to experience it. There's the scenic train journey. Just sit back, relax, and watch as it unfolds.
I bet those little stations are adorable.
Oh, I'm sure. Adorned with bougainvillea and, of course, tiles.
Gotta have the tiles.
Gotta have the tiles.
Or if you want more freedom, you could opt for a self-driven itinerary. That way you can stop and explore at your own pace.
Right. But if you plan on indulging in some wine tasting, definitely designate a driver.
Definitely. And then there's always the boat cruise option. Just cruising down the river, sipping some wine, maybe some port, taking in those vineyard views. But our sources also highlight this one destination within the Douro Valley that deserves a whole day. World of Wine. Wow, W.
Wow, that sounds ambitious.
It's so much more than just wine. It's a destination with interactive museums, exhibitions, restaurants, appeals to both adults and children. They even have a Willy Wonka-esque chocolate story section.
What? Really? That's awesome. What kind of experiences are we talking about?
Well, there's an immersive wine journey where you learn all about the process from grape to glass, learn about different grape varieties, how to identify them, and then, of course, there's the Port Museum.
Oh, of course.
And then, get this, an exhibition showcasing drinking vessels throughout history.
Oh, how interesting.
And they just recently added the Atkinson Museum, which hosts these world-class exhibitions.
Wow. Okay, WOW really lives up to its name.
It does. But even with all of those amazing attractions in the Douro Valley, it's good to remember that Porto itself offers plenty of green spaces, for those who just want to chill out a bit.
Oh, yeah, that's important.
Our sources recommend checking out the Treetop Walk in Parque de Serralve. Stroll amongst the canopy.
Oh, that sounds cool.
I know. And then there's the Sourroot Gardens. These are ancient gardens surrounding a restored house that's now a contemporary art museum. And for breathtaking views of the Douro River, the gardens surrounding the Crystal Palace are a must.
Oh, wow.
You can imagine peacocks strutting around the city as the backdrop.
Sounds like the perfect ending to a day of exploring Porto.
Ah,
Actually, this whole deep dive has been incredibly insightful. I'm so ready to plan a trip now.
me too. I think what strikes me is how seamlessly Porto blends history and culture with a modern, forward-thinking energy.
It's true. You can wander through century-old streets and then stumble upon some cutting-edge art gallery or a co-working space full of entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And of course, those breathtaking landscapes are just a stone's throw away.
It's that contrast that makes it so captivating. It really has something to offer everyone, from history buffs and art enthusiasts to foodies and nature lovers.
And what I find really interesting is this, this commitment to preserving its heritage while embracing innovation at the same time.
It's that perfect balance of old and new that makes Porto truly unique. And speaking of unique, let's delve a little deeper into some of the more unexpected experiences that Porto has to offer. It's amazing how Porto combines tradition with these, modern trends.
It's true. We see that in the food, the art, even the shopping. Remember Klaus Porto, that iconic soap brand we talked about?
Yeah, class war.
Their flagship store on Rua das Flores is a perfect example.
Right. They've got that classic Art Nouveau packaging,
Hmm.
but they're always coming up with new scents, new products, like that Alto Mar and their Musco Real line for men.
Yeah, that one's great.
I love that they have a soap on a rope and eau de toilette.
Yeah, it's a modern take on a classic.
It is.
And then there's LOT, Labels of Tomorrow. It's like they took the department store concept and just elevated it. They've got all these Portuguese, Brazilian, and Spanish labels.
And they're in this beautiful space,
Yeah.
right?
It's a historic building, beautifully designed. And get this, there's a cafe upstairs with an outdoor terrace, perfect for a little post-shopping relaxation.
Oh, perfect. But let's not forget jewelry. Porto is known for its gold.
Absolutely. Traditional gold filigree from northern Portugal. It's everywhere in the jewelry shops, those intricate designs.
Yeah, they're gorgeous.
And, of course, we have to mention the Viana heart pendants,
Oh, right.
originally from Viana do Castelo, a city just north of Porto.
Oh, okay.
Beautiful souvenir.
They are. But for people who want something a bit more modern, what about Crew Creative Hub?
Oh, yeah, Crew. That's a cool one. It's a store, a coffee roastery, and a co-working space all in one.
Was.
I know, right? It's a real microcosm of Porto's creative energy. They feature like 50 Portuguese brands, handmade jewelry, shoes, all designed and made right there in northern Portugal.
Oh, very cool.
While you're there, you should check out Rua de Miguel Bombarda.
The art district.
That's the one. Galleries, antique shops, cafes, the whole street just has this, creative energy.
I love that. All right, so we've shot. Let's get to the sweets. Our sources recommend Chocolateria Ecuador. They source their beans from Sao Tome and Principe.
Oh, very nice.
I know, right? And they're known for, well, get ready for this, they make chocolate sardines sprinkled with salt and algae.
With
I know, right?
chocolate sardines.
Chocolate sardines.
Oh, okay.
Or they have bars infused with port wine, salted caramel, other unexpected flavors.
I love that. Experimenting with flavors, local ingredients.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And there are shops all over the historic center, so it shouldn't be hard to find. Speaking of satisfying cravings, we got to talk about Livraria Lolo.
Oh, yeah, that iconic bookstore.
I know. I've seen pictures. It's absolutely stunning.
It's so popular now, you need a ticket to get in. But good news is, it's refundable if you buy a book.
Yeah.
Honestly, how could you not?
Right.
I mean, that staircase alone, it's supposed to be the inspiration for the Hogwarts staircase.
It's magical.
It is magical. J.K. Rowling lived in Porto, while she was writing the first Harry Potter book.
That makes so much sense. All right, let's talk about the Douro Valley. I am so ready for this.
Oh, yes, the Douro Valley. Those rolling vineyards cascading down to the Douro River.
Sounds dreamy.
It's a must-see. You could do the scenic train journey, just sit back and enjoy the views.
I bet those little train stations are so cute.
Oh, I'm sure. All decked out with bougainvillea and, of course, tiles.
The tiles.
Gotta have the tiles.
Gotta have the tiles. Or, for more freedom, you could drive. That way you can stop and explore at your own pace.
Right, but designate a driver if you're going to be wine tasting.
For sure, for sure. And then there's the boat cruise option, cruising along the river, enjoying the views, sipping some wine, maybe some port.
Sounds lovely.
It does. But our sources say there's one destination in the Douro Valley that deserves a whole day. World of Wine, or WW.
Wow, wow, W. That sounds like a whole experience.
It is. It's so much more than just wine. It's like this whole complex dedicated to the culture and heritage of the Douro Valley. They have interactive museums, exhibitions, restaurants, appeals to adults and kids. They even have, get this, a Willy Wonka-esque chocolate story section.
Wait, really? That's
Yeah.
amazing.
I know. And for the wine lovers, they have this immersive wine journey where you learn about the whole process from grape to glass. They even have a section where you learn to identify different grape varieties.
Oh, that's cool.
It's great that they're making the world of wine so accessible to everyone, even if you're not an expert.
Absolutely.
And for those who want to dive deeper into port, well, there's a port museum. And then, get this, they have an exhibition on drinking vessels throughout history.
Oh, how interesting.
I know. And then they just added the Atkinson Museum, which has, world-class exhibitions on all kinds of topics.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
It really does live up to its name.
It does. But, even with all the amazing stuff in the Douro Valley, Porto itself has tons of green spaces for people who want some peace and quiet.
Right, right. It's good to get a break from the city sometimes.
Exactly. Our sources recommend the treetop walk in Parque de Serralves. Imagine you're strolling along up in the canopy.
Oh, that sounds so cool.
And then there are the São Roque Gardens, ancient gardens surrounding a restored house that's now a contemporary art museum. And for breathtaking views of the Douro River, you have to check out the gardens around the Crystal Palace.
Oh, wow.
Imagine peacocks, beautiful gardens, and then the city skyline as a backdrop.
Sounds incredible. Sounds like the perfect place to end a day of exploring.
Yeah. Speaking of exploring, one thing that surprised me was the architectural diversity in Porto.
Oh, tell me about it. I know we talked about the azulejos and some of the churches, but what else is there?
Well, for starters, there's the Casa da Musica. That's a concert hall designed by Rem Koolhaas.
Oh, wow. Rem Koolhaas. He's known for his, innovative designs.
Yeah, his unconventional designs. So what's it like?
It's a striking building, sharp angles, asymmetrical shape. It's a real modern landmark.
And how are the acoustics?
Amazing.
Mm,
World class. Which is no surprise, considering who designed it.
makes sense. And then there's the Serralves Foundation, which we talked about in terms of the museum.
Right, right. The one by Alvaro Cisa Vieira.
That's the one. But it's actually much more than just a museum. It's a whole cultural institution. They have a beautiful park, a villa designed by Jose Marques de Silva, and even a treetop walk.
It's like a destination in itself.
It is. And then there are the more traditional structures, like San Francisco Church, dates back to the 14th century.
Wow.
I know. So what's the style?
It's a mix, actually. The exterior is Gothic, but the interior is mostly Baroque. Lots of, intricate gilded decoration.
Oh, wow.
It's stunning. Our sources highlighted the Tree of Jesse, which is this incredible example of gilded wood carving.
Sounds amazing.
It is. And for something a little different, there's the Teleférico de Gaia. It's a cable car that offers amazing views of the city and the river.
Oh, fun. Love a good cable car ride. Those views must be incredible.
They are. And for street art fans, check out the Villanova de Gaia side of the river. They've got all these colorful murals.
Oh, cool. So they've got the traditional tile work and then modern street art, too.
It's a good mix. And Porto has a pretty lively nightlife scene, too.
Oh, I didn't picture that.
Yeah, it's no Ibiza or anything, but they've got those traditional photo houses. Where you can experience that soulful Portuguese music.
Oh, I've heard of Fado.
And if you're looking for something more upbeat, there are trendy bars and clubs, particularly in the Ribera district.
I can just picture those little cobblestone streets packed with people.
Yeah, it's lively. But, if you want something more low-key, there are tons of cozy wine bars and cafes, perfect for a relaxing evening.
Nice. So they really do have something for everyone. One thing that really stood out in the research was just how walkable Porto is.
Oh, totally. It's a pretty compact city, easy to get around on foot. And, there are all those little hidden gems to discover, like the Miragaia neighborhood.
What's that one like?
Colorful houses, traditional tile workshops, really charming.
Sounds cute.
And if you want those panoramic views, head up to Jardim do Moro. It's a hilltop park. Amazing views of the city, the river, the Dom Luís Bridge.
Perfect for those, Instagram shots.
Absolutely. And speaking of bridges, we can't forget the Ponta da Arabida, one of the most iconic landmarks in Porto.
Oh, right. And they do bungee jumping off of it.
They do. Not for me. But, if you're into that sort of thing.
Yeah, or you can just admire the bridge from afar.
Definitely safer.
Mm.
And then there's the Ponte de São João, a railway bridge. The views from there are supposed to be stunning, especially at sunset.
It's amazing how even the bridges in Porto are works of art.
They are. And we haven't even talked about the nature surrounding Porto.
Oh, right. I mean, we talked about the Douro Valley, but what else?
Well, there's the Serra do Gerês National Park. Just a short drive from the city. It's a hiker's paradise. Waterfalls, forests, granite peaks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And for the coast lovers, the Costa Verde.
Oh, tell me about it.
Dramatic cliffs, sandy beaches, charming fishing villages, just stunning.
So it's like you can have the city experience, but then also these incredible natural landscapes.
It's the best of both worlds. And, Porto is also incredibly well connected.
Oh, right. The airport has direct flights to all these major cities, and then there's the train station.
Yeah, easy connections to other parts of Portugal and even Spain.
So it's really easy to add on to a bigger European trip.
Definitely. And once you're there, it's so easy to get around.
And the locals are so friendly.
They are. And English is widely spoken, so, it's a very accessible city.
Makes it even more appealing.
Speaking of accessible, Porto has a really thriving LGBTQ plus community.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love that so inclusive.
Yeah, there are a number of gay bars and clubs, especially in the Cito Fida neighborhood. And they have a big pride parade every year.
It's so great to see that, celebrating the LGBTQ plus community so openly.
And they celebrate a lot in Porto, lots of festivals throughout the year. One of the most famous is Festa de São João. Takes place on the night of June 23rd.
Oh, I've heard about that one.
Bonfires, street parties, and they have this tradition of, hitting each other on the head with plastic hammers.
I did hear about that.
It's definitely a unique experience.
It is. And for music lovers, there's the Nas Primera Sound Festival, happens in June. Lineup of international and Portuguese artists.
Oh, yeah. That one's big. Draws crowds from all over Europe. Porto has a pretty cool music scene.
They do. And it's interesting. It seems like Porto's attracting more and more digital nomads and entrepreneurs these days.
Yeah, it's affordable. It's got that relaxed lifestyle. And there's a growing tech scene. It's very appealing for people who are looking for that work-life balance.
And there are co-working spaces, like Crew Creative Hub. Offer a nice environment for remote workers.
Yeah, definitely. It's cool to see a city embrace, the changing nature of work.
It is. And speaking of embracing change, Porto seems pretty committed to sustainability.
Oh, yeah, for sure. They have all sorts of initiatives to reduce their environmental impact, promoting public transport, cycling, investing in renewable energy.
It's nice to see a city that takes that seriously.
It is. What really stands out to me is how Porto embraces its history, but is also, looking ahead to the future.
Yeah, that's an interesting observation. What do you mean?
Well, on one hand, it's a city steeped in history. Its roots go all the way back to Roman times. It's played a huge role in Portuguese history and culture.
Right, you see that everywhere you look, right? The architecture, the churches, the palaces.
Exactly. And there are museums, historical sites like the Soares dos Reis National Museum, San Francisco Church. They offer these, glimpses into the past.
It's amazing how much of its history it's been able to preserve.
I know. But at the same time, it's a city that's, moving forward, embracing innovation, technology, sustainability. It's evolving.
Yeah, it's that blend of old and new that makes it so fascinating.
It does. Speaking of fascinating, did you know that Porto has inspired tons of writers and artists?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we talked about J.K. Rowling, but who else?
Well, there's the Portuguese poet Fernando Pessoa. He spent a lot of time in Porto. The city's in a lot of his works.
Wow. It's incredible how Porto has had such an impact, on literature, art, even pop culture.
It has. And it just keeps inspiring people.
Okay, and we can't forget the food scene. I mean, beyond the restaurants we mentioned, what's the overall experience like?
Well, Porto is known for fresh seafood, hearty meat dishes, and those rich, flavorful sauces.
And the francesinha.
Oh, yeah, the francesinha. It's a meat lover's dream.
It is, and it's a great example of their culinary creativity. Right?
Definitely. Porto's a great city for foodies, people who are looking for something a little different.
So we've got history, culture, food, nature. And what about the vibe?
Oh, it's got a great vibe. Porto's buzzing. You can feel that energy, from the markets to the nightlife. It's a city that never sleeps.
And it's welcoming, too, right?
So welcoming. The locals are friendly. They're hospitable. They make you feel at home.
They do. It really celebrates diversity and inclusivity.
Absolutely. And speaking of celebrating, it's a city that's always evolving, constantly reinventing itself while holding on to its heritage.
Yeah, there's always something new to discover.
Always. It's a city that's just waiting to be explored.
The hidden alleyways, the charming neighborhoods, the stunning viewpoints.
It's a city that invites you to wander and get lost.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
So beautiful. And you know what? Porto really captures the heart.
It does. That charm, the character, the warmth, it stays with you long after you leave.
You want to go back again and again.
I have a feeling it's a city that's easy to fall in love with.
Oh, absolutely. The magic, the allure, the spirit, it just grabs you.
It does. All right, so should we wrap up this part of our Porto deep dive?
I think so. There's just so much to explore in Porto.
Oh, no, right?
We've barely scratched the surface.
It's true. But hopefully we've given everyone a good starting point, for planning their own Porto adventures.
That's what we're going for.
So until our next deep dive, stay tuned. I'm surprised by how much Porto surprised me. I had this idea of it being like this charming, historic city.
Right.
Which it is.
It is.
But there's so much more to it.
It really is. It's not just cobbled streets and beautiful architecture.
Right.
It's a living, breathing city.
Right.
And it's evolving all the time.
Right.
But it's still honoring its past. We saw that in everything from the food to the art and design scene.
Totally. And it doesn't hurt that it's all nestled between the Douro River and the Atlantic Ocean.
That's true. That definitely adds to the appeal.
Speaking of appeal, is there anything that we talked about that you'd want to do first?
It's tough. There's so much I want to do. After hearing about all that incredible food, I think a food tour is at the top of my list.
Oh, good choice.
I want to try it all. The seafood at Gruta, the tasting menus at Euskalduna's studio, even those chocolate sardines.
Yeah, the chocolate sardines.
From Chocolateria, Ecuador.
I think I'd go for a visit to one of those historic port lodges first. And then maybe a walk along the Douro at sunset.
Oh, that sounds nice.
Picture it, the sun setting, those colorful buildings reflecting on the water.
Yeah, very peaceful.
But I think no matter what you do first, the key is to just soak it all in. Talk to the locals, wander those little streets, discover those hidden gems.
Oh, absolutely. And don't forget about the day trips. We talked about the Douro Valley with those vineyards and villages.
Right.
And then there's this Serra do Gerês National Park for something completely different. Connect with nature a bit.
It's amazing that you can have all of that within reach. The city break, the food, the nature.
It really is the best of both worlds.
And then all those unique experiences, the bungee jumping, the cable car.
Right.
There's something for everyone.
It seems like Porto caters to all types of travelers.
It does. And our sources all agreed that welcoming atmosphere is a big part of the appeal. They really make you feel at home.
I love that. It seems like a very special place.
It does. So I think it's time to encourage everyone listening to take everything we've learned and create their own Porto experience, whether it's a long weekend or even longer.
For sure. There's no doubt it'll be a memorable trip.
Definitely.
Yep.
And who knows? Maybe you'll discover something new, something we didn't even talk about.
That's always a possibility. That's the beauty of travel. You never know what you're going to find.